Добрый день.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I suggest we start. Thank you to everyone who found the opportunity and who showed interest towards our session. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Ekaterina Trofimova. I'm the first Vice President and member of the board Gazprom Bank, which I'm pretty sure you've seen. Well, at least you had a look at our ribbons in here. And the Gazprom Bank, historically, since the very beginning of this forum, is a general partner to it. And it's a great honor for us to be able to do that. And from the very beginning of this forum establishment, we've been very active in participating in the program. And in accordance with our initiative, this particular session has been set up. The session is about Russian and Chinese cooperation and relations, and we've conscientiously added one more word and one more motto: from words to actions. And I believe this is exactly topical for the legal forum, because we are talking a lot, and we're talking quite actively about our Russian pivot towards the East. The Russian economy, the Russian policy, cultural ties are established more and more with the East. But when we talk about actions, right, legal matters become crucial, and legal matters become of a larger importance. And Gazprom Bank is very active, cooperating with Asian partners. Already back in 2006, we've opened a representative office in China. And as for applied and a very detailed and a very hands-on discussion on how legal work, how legislature, how enforcement contributes or halts and stalls this particular cooperation, is what I suggest to do today. And we'll be doing this together with our speakers in here, and everyone who's present in the audience, please don't be shy and do prepare your questions. If you have a wish to interfere and to intervene, our agenda allows it. Our session is going to last for just a little bit more than 1 hour and a half, so we will now start with some questions, probably, that I would like to address to our esteemed speakers in here in the podium. And then, as I proposed, we will give an opportunity for everyone who is in the room to speak up, to ask questions, and to share their experience, mainly, maybe. Because this experience of working with Chinese and Asian partners can be varied, and there is already a good understanding that working with Asian partners is not an easy thing. You really need years and years of not just building and strengthening those ties, but you have to really understand the whole procedure of how to work, and legal issues are of utmost priority, because when it comes down to legal matters, they set up the tone, right, and they set up the coordinates, the system of coordinates for both parties. And Russian experts, I think, have lost a lot in understanding and obtaining knowledge of how to operate and work with Chinese partners and Asian partners, and that's why we believe we need to work more than probably other countries need. And I'm glad to introduce to you our speakers. Let me start from this item on the agenda. Let me introduce to you Wang Xiaoping, partner from Grendel Law Firm. Let me introduce to you Tian Wenjing, partner from King & Wood Mallesons. Alexander Dolgov, a partner from Hogan Lovells. And Artyom Sokhikyan, Deputy Director of the Department of Direct Investment, Export and External Economic Action Promotion, Ministry for the Development of the Russian Far East. Once again, we've conscientiously decided not to overburden this panel, this panel with speakers, so that everyone had an opportunity to speak up and to say something. And we wanted to get a very good mix of both Russian colleagues, experts who work for a long time in the region, and we wanted to also get an opinion from our state agencies and bodies who really set up the tone and who are really in the forefront of making this this pivot towards the east. And for you not to be bored and to make this particular session more diverse, we've prepared a couple of slides. They will be just there for a backdrop. They will be a backdrop of our discussion. And again, if there are any questions, we're always ready to take them on. We don't set a task to discuss or to present the slides, because those slides are, well, mainly self-explanatory. These slides are mainly about the projects that are being currently carried out. So if there is a particular interest, we can talk more about these things, but once again, and I will emphasize that it's just for a backdrop here, it's just a background. And all those reference points, Gazprom Bank and so on and so forth, are on the slide. So if there's a need, you can contact us and we can talk about these things outside this session. We believe that this session is a very good venue of obtaining new contacts and definitely resolving all the issues and questions in the time frame allotted is not possible. As for the speakers, I really ask them to talk in the mic and loud, because we are recording this session, we're broadcasting the session, and it's good if you speak in the mic because of the translation as well. So the first question I would like to address to Mr. Wang Xiaoping. Let me ask you, well, generally, how the cooperation of Russia and China in this legal area can contribute to sustainable development? I believe this thesis doesn't require any particular analysis or any explanation. It's self-evident, but probably we need to speak more about some particular examples of Russia-Chinese cooperation and what changes in this legal framework are of first and topmost priority to expand economic cooperation, to contribute for better goods turnover and investments flows between Russia and China, because we live now in a sustained macroeconomic, whatever you call it, crisis, resetting, new reality, just choose any word you like. But it is becoming more and more evident that any nation closing itself and shutting itself off from the rest of the world is counterproductive. And does not allow to resolve those accumulated problems in the macroeconomic system. So, Mr. Xiaoping, if you can please share your experience with us and your opinion about these issues.
Thank you, the chairwoman, at the introduction to me. And let me speak in this session firstly. I'm very glad to attend this session of the Russia and China. Eventually, it's not my first time to speak in this forum, but in other sessions, namely. And also, I'm very glad to have seen the relation between China and Russia become better and better, and the economic cooperation become closer and closer. If we're talking about the relation between the two countries, I think there are some special things should be reminded. Of course, if China we have a good relation with about 200 countries in the world. We have a good relation with them in economic cooperation. Right now, by last year, the trade amount of China between other countries become the number one in the world. Supersede the United States, Japan, and Germany. So, but if you're talking about the economic cooperation between China and Russia, the amount is not arrived the how to account that. Uh, $100 billion. Not arrive, not achieve the $100 billion. However, the relation between two countries, it's a little bit special other than other countries. Why I say that? I like say this way. That must remind something about 100 years ago. I think we are so young, we have no experience in the past of the 100 years. But the good relation between two countries start from that years, 100 years ago, about 100 years ago. We can say the October Revolution, 1917. That then from then, China got very good relation, inflation, and good help from Russia, and then from Soviet Union. Then we start good relation from then. So during the past about 100 years, so we eventually cooperate each other in good, good relation, and we have a lot of things have done during the past 100 years. So about the two weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, in the Red Plaza, we have seen in the military parade. So we say the two countries' leaders stand in the middle of the stand. So that shows our two countries' relations. So that's a military parade. Celebrate the 70 years we overconquered the fascism of both our enemies. But today, we in new age of our relationship, and we have a good in economic, politics, and military, and culture, and many fields. If you're talking about because we are legal expert, so we're talking about some legal something. The two countries have eventually have a good relation. We have done. We have a good treaties. A lot of treaties between two countries. Eventually, in 1950s, we have a good relations, and we have treaties of the friendship and the cooperation then. But after 30 years, we have eventually we changed that. In the 2001. We have a good new treaties between two countries. That is friendship and cooperation. That's a new friendship and cooperation in 2001. So that is our two countries' basis. However, eventually, between two countries, we have the Treaty of the Trade and Navigation. That treaty is eventually established in 1958. That is very old treaty, but that treaty still is active. So that will be related to our two countries' economic activities. Another treaty that is very important for our two countries in legal field. That is the treaty of the judicial assistance in civil and criminal affairs. This treaty is really help for our economic and civil activities. Of course, that's also deal with a criminal case. So this treaty is very important. Another treaty is the treaty of extradited. That, of course, deal with a criminal case. So, as I know, there are four treaties between, if you call treaty, there's four treaties between two countries. Of course, there's a lot of agreement between two countries. Of course, there's a lot of things there. We like to mention some treaties, some agreement that are important. One agreement is the agreement of the common condition of delivery goods. Common condition of delivery goods. Eventually, this agreement is established 1957. However, the two countries amend this agreement in 1990. So that means this agreement is still active and eventually used in some cases. We found used in some cases of arbitration. So this is still working. And another important agreement is the agreement of a promotion and the protection of investment. This there's a promotion and the protection of investment. This agreement is also important because that give the very general preference of regarding the investment. There are some really important issue mentioned in this agreement. Of course, there's a lot of investment going on between two countries. So we can remind this agreement for our investment protection and promotion. And another agreement is the agreement of preventing of a double taxation and tax evasion. This agreement is talking about a tax. As you know, so every economic activities, trade and investment will be, to relate to the tax. How deal with the tax that happened in either countries. Russia or China. So this this agreement is a deal with such tax issue. That I think every the person in the companies is very concerned such issues. And other agreement is the agreement of the cooperation of protection intellectual property. I think the intellectual property issue is very, very important for two countries. I was taught by some Russia government officials and the executive of Russia Corporation, and also the expert of the intellectual property. They have some problems with the IP issue when they deal with the Chinese cooperation. I think, as I know, there is a lot of patent and technology is going on between the two countries of cooperation companies. And of course, it's a lot of technology, patent come from the institution of the Russia and the corporations. So how to deal with such the IP issues? So this agreement is applied. Another agreement is the two government agencies. That is I think most of the cooperation will be related. That's between the General Administration of the Customer Service of China and the Customer Service of Federal of Russia. I think the goods going on between two countries have to pass to the customer. They have to subject to the inspection of the customer service. So the two countries' agencies have a good relation and cooperation each other to deal with such issues. Especially, one thing I eventually I participate in such kind of the transactions because we have a good railway delivery routes. That eventually started from very earlier of the 1950, even more than earlier than that. So probably the train carry the goods from China or from Russia, go through some 1,000 miles to either countries. So that will be a lot of things will be going on between the customer service. Another agreement is between the administration of the industry and the commerce of the China and Federal Anti-Monopoly Service of Russia. This agreement, as you know, will be deal with antitrust, anti-dumping, and such issues, and anti-fair competition. I think it's a lot of issues will be happened between the transaction between the two countries. if there something is not unfair, that should be dealt with by such government agencies. So each corporation must pay such attention in such issues. And if you have any question, any wonder regarding such issues, you could talk to the government agency. Of course, the government agencies will be worked based on such agreement. And other agreement will be not quite special, but it's important. One is the agreement of the Ministry of the Security of China and the Ministry of the Internal Affairs of Federal Russia. So I think this agreement is also important that give our protection from the criminal crimes happened between two countries. Eventually, we can see there are some things, the crimes or terror activities is going on between countries. So the cooperation between the security and security agencies is very important to protect our life and property. Eventually, this agreement is established a very early time. This one is established 1992. So it's more than 20 years. So that means it's a lot of cooperation, a lot of agreements is established by the two countries' governments. So that means the two countries have a very good relation between government and level. One thing I have to mention, that is regarding the financial field. That is the agreement of cooperation in regulatory, in financial institution between People's Bank of China, that is the Central Bank of China, and the Bank of Federal of Russia. So that means in the financial field, the two countries, the central bank, have a very good cooperation each other, and eventually that cooperation will be done and have done in very early time. So we will any cooperation want or how we are going to do something between two countries, such agreement will be helpful to your transaction, I think. Eventually, two countries also have a good cooperation each other's in some special international institution. One of them is Shanghai Cooperation Organizations. That is some maybe 10 countries, I think. I don't remember exactly the number of countries. That is a cooperation between such countries. In such organizations, we have a spatial cooperation each other. And also, we have cooperation in the BRICS countries. That is why called BRICS. But still, there's some you can find the cooperation between I think, 5 countries. Recently, we start one development bank between countries. That is Asia Infrastructure Development Bank. Of course, China and Russia also participate in this bank. There is Asia Bank. That is a very important bank after World Bank and Asia Development Bank. I think this bank will help our 2 countries to be active in such an area, to give us the assistance from a financial field. And also, one thing is probably quite a high level, but eventually it's a lot of things is talking each other between the 2 countries' leaders. Eventually, the institutions or corporation want to do something that need the high-level help. You can mention in such issues to such mechanism. Okay. There's a lot of there's one mechanism between 2 countries' prime ministers. So there's a fixed time of the meeting between 2 countries' prime minister. They eventually, during the meeting, they have a lot of committee. It's a lot of committee to deal with each country issue. If you think your issues is important enough, you can mention such issues up to the prime minister, and then will be talked to the counterpart of the between 2 countries. Beside of the government, the activity and their cooperation, eventually is a lot of activity going on in the our levels. So eventually I attended some, in recent years, I attended a lot of forums between 2 countries. Last year, I attended one China-Russia trade fair that's held in the China Heilongjiang province. Eventually, that's a trade fair. It's not a start from last year. The formal name is Euro-Asia Trade Fair. But from last year, the 2 countries changed that name, become the China and the Russia Trade Fair. That shows our relations is so important. And last year, there's some open innovation forums held in the Moscow. And China is become the main state guest in such a forum. Of course, there's a lot of Chinese company attend such a forum. And also, in the same last year, there's some Pujiang forums held in Shanghai. That's eventually that's innovation. It's also innovation related. Of course, Russia sent a very large delegation to such a forum, led by the government agencies, and a lot of cooperation. And also, we found there's some institution is established between two countries. Eventually, the two countries established one university called Russia-China University. That's very new. That's very, very new. So, and also, we eventually discussed with famous Russian intellectual property institution to prepare one IP center that deal with the IP issues between China and Russia. And also, there's some electricity and machinery cooperation going on two countries, and there's some special organization established. And also we found last year two countries have a good big deal that's related to our chairwoman's companies. So we have a good deal of gas. It's a $40 billion deals. That will be delivered by Gazprom companies. And also, we found in recently their announcement, the speed train project will be open between Moscow to Kazan. So that is about a $3.4 billion deal. So I think that will be good activity between two countries. So that means it's a lot of things going on between two countries in government levels and also in the cooperation and institutions levels. So there's all of them to show the good relation between two countries, and we expect that activity will be going good and well, and to take more good result for both countries. Thank you.
Спасибо большое.
Thank you very much. It was a very thorough and detailed description of what projects we run in both countries. It's a kind of cooperation that lasts for decades and centuries. But we need to admit that the current geopolitical situation helped it, promoted this cooperation in many ways. And we have bad news and good news, both for the Russian party. It was a kind of a stimulus, a trigger to enhance this cooperation, and for the Russian investors to seek potential investment targets in China, and we hope that it will serve to promote this cooperation. In the end, Mr. Sanpin mentioned a number of projects which are currently being developed, and since Gazprom Bank is part of the Gazprom group, a lot has been said about the gas deal, and a lot has been said about it on the highest level. I suggest we should probably talk more about the high-speed track project, which is also part of the Gazprom Bank investment project, and this project now attracts a lot of attention on the Chinese side, and Russian partners sometimes tend to be rather skeptical, wondering whether those agreements will develop into actual projects. And since we're talking about words to action today, I think this high-speed track project, Moscow-Kazan, is a very good example, which breaks stereotypes of Chinese partners being interested only in resource projects. They are not. They are interested in creating infrastructure in Russia, in other regions. It's a long-term, we're talking about long-term projects, which are a logical continuation of the Great Silk Road project. I'm sure you're familiar with this major idea, and I would like to give the floor to Ms. Tian Wenxin, and she will probably give you a more detailed description of the Moscow-Kazan project, which is no longer a pilot project. It's already being developed. What mechanisms do we need to make this project attractive for Chinese investors? What other projects should have in mind when starting their work? How can we make this project interesting for Chinese investors? Maybe if you could share your experience using this significant and symbolic project as an example. Спасибо.
Добрый день, уважаемые коллеги.
Good afternoon. Well, good morning, dear colleagues. I would like to thank the organizers of this forum for this chance to exchange opinions and experiences with the Russian colleagues. And we would like to thank you for speaking Russian and for making it possible. I think it's a symbol of respect and interest towards work in Russia. A few words about our company. Our company, King and Wood Mallesons, it's one of the major firms in China and in Asia. Unfortunately, this is the first time we're taking part in this forum. As I understand, our today's topic is Russia-Chinese cooperation, from words to action. So one of the most relevant projects for Russian-China cooperation, as Ekaterina has just mentioned, it's a high-speed track Moscow-Kazan project. Judging from the latest news, we're all familiar with this project. Russian Transport Ministry and the Chinese State Committee on Development and Reform and the State Corporation of State Railroad Corporation have signed 5 memoranda which serve as results of negotiations, and the head of the Russian railroads has already told the media about the project, and it's a state-private partnership in a form of concession. And there's a special company which will later operate this project and commission the construction works. A Chinese party is ready to invest to invest 52 billion rubles into the project, and will produce an equivalent of 250 billion rubles in US dollars or in yuan. And I would like to share some comments and details of the project from the point of view of Chinese investors. First of all, we're talking about how free would both parties be when they define the conditions for their concession agreement. To have a successful project, we need to distribute the risks between the state and the private investor. This will allow us to control the project and provide guarantee for the private investors. We need a flexible tool, a flexible mechanism to distribute the risks. Thus, this risk distribution within the framework of the concession agreement is a key factor for the investor. Whether this Moscow-Kazan project will be realized based on this concession agreement, and we know it will be regulated by the federal law on concession agreements. As we know, compared to the previous law on concession agreements, a concession agreement can only be signed according to the model concession agreement. This is how it used to be. Nowadays, as we understand the amendments that have been enacted in the end of the previous year, they give more freedom to the parties to agree on the conditions of this concession agreement, since these model concession agreements are not compulsory any longer. We see it as a very positive sign, but on the other hand, we're still a bit unsure to what extent will the parties be able to alter, to amend this model concession agreement and divide the risks, share the risks. This is what we're concerned about. The second issue concerns state guarantees. The guarantees the state gives to investors, provides for investors. World practice shows us that it would normally be a guarantee of supply, infrastructural guarantees, free of charge or at a moderate price. A guarantee of the minimum profit and political risk, no risk of nationalization, for example, or any other acts by the government, and guarantees of tax exemption that the state would define. We understand that those guarantees will partly exist under the existing legislation, like the federal law on foreign investment. But the most important guarantees, the guarantee of minimum traffic or minimum profit and financial support from the state, they are yet not there. And this is how we feel, this is what we see, and we feel that the full provisions should be part of the next concession agreement to ensure, to provide for a clearer legal basis in this respect. So these are two questions, two issues that I would like to clarify today or share with you. But this would be it. But there are more issues to be discussed for the successful realization of this project. Speaking of the infrastructural investment in Russia, I'm sure that thanks to this traditional long-going cooperation between two countries, Chinese investors are ready to invest into Russian projects, hoping for long-term mutual interest. But we think that at present there is a number of objectives we need to resolve, we need to achieve to ensure further successful cooperation. That would be it. Thank you very much. Thank you. Indeed, when we talk about infrastructure, the topic of Russian-Chinese cooperation is closely linked with state-private partnership development. You know, this is the form the state has defined as a priority form. Legally speaking, it's a matter still in discussion, in development, and there's a number of events at the forum which discuss this issue, whether we're talking about concession, what form should this partnership take, and it's a widely discussed topic. And a colleague of mine is moderating a similar session today, similar panel today. So I would like to encourage my legal colleagues to use actual projects and help develop new norms in this sphere, help develop new regulations, because economic reality is changing, and Russia does not have a big experience in this field. And such discussions would be very important.
As I would like to remind you, I'm continuing to show, I'm showing some of the slides as a backdrop that are mainly about the financial markets. And Mr. Xiaoping today mentioned the whole complex of projects where we cooperate in finance, and a cooperation I think can only be possible by developing bilateral financial transactions and, for example, direct transactions and direct payments made in national currencies, because it is becoming more and more clear that developing countries are moving towards, and that's an evolutional development, are moving towards excluding all of the third parties and excluding intermediaries when joining efforts in particular projects in real economy and when joining efforts in financial transactions. So working directly with each other, it's increasingly important to continue to use direct payments in national currencies. That's why, as it has already been said, and continuing our cooperation in a political sphere and removing various obstacles is extremely important. Mr. Xiaoping has already mentioned this, and a number of projects were launched already. Not just direct agreements between the central banks of our countries are there, but particularly financial infrastructural projects are being created and are being established, and we've talked about the Asian Infrastructural Bank, and Russia has confirmed once again the will and the wish to participate, and the BRICS Bank, because this BRICS topic has already been raised, and I probably would like to address the next question to Alexander Ini here. Will such international institutions that we've mentioned allow us to improve the quality of infrastructural projects? For example, let's talk in the framework of the new Silk Road, or is this just an impetus for an additional development, and private partners need to take the bait and need to take the relay, and it's just a temporary form of cooperation? And what criteria shall those projects meet in order to maximize various effects of such projects? And the BRICS Bank, is that a temporary form of coexistence? Is it there for a long time? And private investors cannot find and shouldn't find themselves in this form, and they need to find a different playground, so to speak. Yes, thank you very much, Ekaterina, for the question and for the opportunity to take part in this session. Truly and verily, Russian and Chinese relations are currently undergoing the peak times and the climax point, probably. And before I comment on the question that's been raised by our wonderful moderator, I would probably first give answers to those two questions that Ms. Venzin has asked. Because I do have an experience of working at a pilot project, the high-speed rail Moscow-Kazan, and what I'd like to say is, now as regards the first question, how to separate the risks in the right way, considering those forms of concession agreements that are currently available in Russia. I think Ms. Venzing demonstrated her knowledge of the Russian law and the recent changes in the Russian law when said that there are no typical forms. There are some forms to be followed. But even if we had, even when we had such typical forms, they were not even used in the market practice. Have a look at any concession agreement. Even the one that's been signed before the new amendment was adopted on setting a recommendation character or recommendation feature for those concession forms. If you do a markup, you would see that there's nothing similar between a typical form of a concession agreement and the real concession agreement. There were no similarities. And the Russian market has gone a long way after the law on concession agreements had been adopted, and a huge market practice have been accumulated, in particular in relation to roads and vehicle infrastructure. But there's been a number of cases of PPP projects in other areas, such as municipal waste removal systems, healthcare, and any other social areas and spheres. So we can say that the Russian market is not dormant and is not sitting in one place. Even the research that's done by an international organization of the Russian PPP market, for example, the EBRD, the World Bank, this research and investigation shows that there's been a progress achieved that Russia has really made moving along the PPP lines. And in comparison to other countries, we are not actually the last, and we are far from being the last in here. And I hope that this year, or in this parliamentary session, a new law will be adopted on the basics of private-public partnership. And I hope that this law will put more structure behind, put more backbone behind such concession projects. So answering the question whether it is really possible to justly distribute the risks between the parties under the concession agreement, taking into account the norms and legislature available in Russia at the moment. Now, as regards state guarantees and as regards any other compensation things for concessionaires, here the law on concessions has really been changed, and the concedent payment, the concedent pays principle that first was tried and tested at road projects, and it was then rolled over other projects, for example, the railroad projects. And no one, well, the state, it might not even provide state guarantees, but it still has an opportunity to provide a whole range of the so-called quasi-guarantees under those concession agreements. And these quasi-guarantees are quite a popular thing in the world. For example, minimal profitability guarantee and compensation guarantees when the concession agreement is revoked before time due to any reasons. And now I know a couple of colleagues that deal with the rapid transit system, and our colleagues have prepared a whole range of amendments to the legislation that deals with new tax tariffs, and these amendments, they basically create a more favorable tax regime for such projects, because it's clear, and it's becoming clear now, that rapid transit systems, fast trains systems have a priority for the government, and they definitely must be stimulated by means of taxation and by means of taxes. Now, coming back from national aspects to supranational, and the questions that Ekaterina here has posed, what I would like to say is that those forms of international corporations that originally were conceived to be just as new ways of combining efforts on an international level, such as Shanghai Organization for Cooperation, BRICS, Eurasian Economic Union. These supranational organizations start to integrate, so it's a much higher level of integration at this moment in time. So what we see now is really an attempt to benchmark and to align roadmaps of the Shanghai Organization of Cooperation, the Eurasian Economic Union, and the Silk Road Initiative. And a couple of memoranda was signed, and it's not done just for the sake of it. We clearly see some political agenda behind it, and I think there's also a wish and a will to develop economic cooperation, and that what stimulates countries to move along these lines and to move along this road. And I think the first steps that were made in this way, well, actually that will be made in this way, is the establishment of the new development bank. And this bank is not being called the BRICS Bank, quite for a reason. Because this bank will be supporting the projects that are not under the jurisdiction of BRICS and that are not on the territory of the BRICS countries. But still, these projects might have an importance and might have a significance for BRICS countries' development. So we hope that since of the 1st of January next year, the new development bank will start and will go in full swing. And today we see that the Asian Bank of Infrastructure and Investments is being is starting to function. So two particular steps and two concrete steps were made. Two new international development institutes appeared in this constellation of various tools and instruments in the common China-Russian space. And it's definitely done for a reason, to support and to help large infrastructural projects to develop and to go forward, because these large infrastructural projects will intensify economic cooperation between Russia and China. And we're trying to search actively for such projects, because when Ekaterina has mentioned the criteria that we must use, I'm pretty sure that political aspect is a serious one in here, but we see that the government is showing its will and is demonstrating its will to really assess such projects thoroughly, and these projects have to be first commercially business viable for all parties involved. It's not a secret that the president of the BRICS Bank is the former chairperson of the Indian Commercial Bank, and it shows that this demonstrates that the new development bank will not only use political reasoning when choosing the projects. There's a whole professional team being structured right now for this bank, and the people who work in this bank and who will work in this bank had experience had commercial experience, had real business experience, and they worked in various organizations such as the EBRD, the International Financial Corporations. And these people, I think, participated in many infrastructural projects in Russia and CIS, or at least played a certain role. For example, let's take Pulkovo example, the new airport terminal. EBRD, International Financial Corporation, both participated in the project. Take another project, this Kazakhstan project, Abakat, this big ring road around Almaty. Again, EBRD, International Financial Corporation, they helped to structure the project, they financed the preparation to the project. And let's have a look at what happens now in Belarus. The M10 highway. This project, once again, is carried out with the help of the European Bank of Reconstruction and Development, but we still need to state that, with all due respect, that the bank has stopped its operations in Russia. So, it's inevitable that new development institutes will appear and will fill in the gap. And what Ekaterina has talked about, and what Ekaterina has asked us, is this a short-term project? And I say, I believe that's not a short-term project. And if, and basically when, the EBRD resumes financing projects in Russia, we do understand that the scope of such projects and these projects is such that you cannot say that there's too much money for them. There's never too much money, and these international financial institutions, they successfully cooperate with each other, and they basically support the same projects. And when one project is attracting money from various sources, it shows its due diligence and it shows its good standing. Many other companies can get involved, such as Gazprom Bank, for example. So I believe that the establishment of new international financial institutions that will support projects in Russia and in China will give an additional impetus for this project, and it will only help to grow the number of those projects, because now we're just talking about some mega projects, the high-speed train, well, a couple of others that are still in the pipeline and being reviewed. But I believe that the scope for cooperation is much bigger and broader than that, and there's a bigger potential than that. And we forget about mid-sized projects, the ones that are traditionally financed, attracting project money, attracting PPP initiatives and instruments and vehicles. And the average size of such projects is $150 to $300 million. And the high-speed train project, as Mr. Saiping has mentioned, is more than $3.5 billion. It exceeds the sum of $3.5 billion. So it's nice that there's a political will to carry out and to see the project of this scope through. And hopefully it will also allow us to do some additional changes and to introduce some additional amendments in the national legislation that will only contribute to, well, it will help other projects to develop and to go forward and to jump from mid-size, small size, and these infrastructural projects will cement the foundation of cooperation between Russia, China, and many other BRICS countries. So we see that new financial institutions are being established, new development institutes are being established, and I think we just need to support this process and we need to welcome this process. We see there's a serious support on behalf of the Chinese government and China in general. Some of the projects Russia actually lags behind. In some of the projects that Russia lags behind, for example, the bridge across the Amur River. We see there's a will from the Chinese side, and they perform their and then they carry out their obligations in full. So I hope that in a year, when we meet again at this forum, we will already be able to talk in here about the examples of successfully implemented projects and successful projects that I hope will be at a certain final stage of signing the agreements. I'm not talking about the final financial closing, but at least the signature of those concession documents will already be there. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I would like to draw your attention to one particular point. When Alexander talked about the economic viability dominance over political reasoning, so economic viability of these projects dominate over political things. If we are serious about these projects and if we want them to go long term, and if these projects will last for many years, tens of years, economic viability has to be a prevailing criteria when a decision is being made. And let me also draw your attention to another thing that Alexander has talked about. He says that large projects are catalysts, or the things that form the whole system. They are catalysts for smaller projects and for mid-sized projects, because this critical mass of projects is what contributes to additional enhancement of cooperation. Now, if we talk about private investors and private capital, volatility is not what they are interested in. That's why mid-sized projects and small projects is something that really allows us to smooth out, to correct the roughness, those peaks of up and down related to bigger projects. So the small and medium-sized projects, they have to serve as a backbone for future development. As the foundation, and really see that large projects are basically a point of attraction and a force of attraction. But these large projects, they allow us to improve our expertise. They help us to build the practice of building these projects, and they attract political will. And then, because they do it, they serve as catalysts. They serve as attractors of smaller and smaller projects. And the bridge across the Amur River was mentioned, and I think it will serve as a good bridge. I mean, this topic is a good bridge to talk about the beauties of our nature. Well, you know that Russia is vast, it's a large country, and it's a well-known fact. And unfortunately, there's always been a big problem. Something that halted our social and economic development, and that's the inequality of regional development. Some regions are going faster than the others. And however we try to speak less about policy, I would still want to build a bridge towards social aspects, because social aspects is a very important aspect when it comes to the topic of developing various territories of Russia, and in particular the Far East territory. And now I'd like to give the floor to Artyom. Okay, let me call you just Artyom, I cannot pronounce your surname, sorry for that. And let's talk about the new law. It's recently been enacted, the law of rapid development of the Far East. The law was adopted on the 29th of February 2014. Okay, are there any positive tendencies? Have you been successful in attracting Chinese investments into this macro region of the Far East? Let's talk about smaller projects in this regards, right, as opposed to the ones that were already mentioned in this session. Do you really see this pivoting towards the East, and in particular towards China? Well, let's not just stop on China. Let's talk about the whole Asian region. What are the opportunities are there for Chinese and Asian partners to invest into the Far East? Do you create any additional conditions, any beneficial conditions for these partners to operate? Let's talk in the light of well, this buzzword investment climate, right? Do the rules of the game really change, and what role does the government play? And can it really change the rules of the game, and can it really make the whole region attractive in terms of investments? Do we really understand the needs of our Asian partners? Does the government make everything possible to meet those needs? What do we do in order to make business comfortable for both parties? Thank you.
Да, спасибо, Екатерина. Хотел бы сначала...
Thank you, Katerina. A couple of comments about what you have said and others have said previously. I cannot agree with Alexander Konstantinovich, who says we are missing the focus of small-scale and middle-scale projects. This is simply not true. Politically, of course, large-scale projects are more visible, yet there are so many smaller projects in the process of being implemented. We have all heard about pipes being built and bridges, but there are lesser projects. Ekaterina is absolutely correct in saying that Chinese partners are very keen on developing not only mining or resource industries, but technologically based projects. However, in reality, when discussing infrastructural or industrial projects, we tend to slow down. To compensate for this drag in our cooperation, the Russian parliament has adopted a new law, a law on the territories of accelerated development. This is a law which is custom-made for the Russian Far East and for economic partnership with regional neighbors, China, South Korea. A couple of words about the law, its purpose, its mission, and basic things. Its main purpose was to integrate all available potential and capacities of the Far Eastern region into a single resource. We have to marry this resource with modern technologies. In 2012, our president has set out a priority for the development of the Far Eastern regions. That was mainstream of our economic policy. This is a huge territory, and new innovative approaches would be in order. New governance, new administration. However, since 2012, there was very little progress made. Quite understandably, every investor was pretty shy, fearing many risks along the way. Now we have a law. A law is implementing a concept of accelerated development in this territory for the period of 70 years. Its main purpose is to accelerate every process taking place in this territory. The federal government is going to invest public capital for infrastructure, while investors will externalize their expenses on infrastructure to save for industrial purposes. This is a one-stop project. The project provides for four accountabilities to be involved. The Ministry of the Far Eastern Development. This is a leading public agency responsible for investments, for placement of investments, project responsibilities, assessment of investment projects, investment support, feasibility studies. Another accountability is the Foundation for the Development of the Far Eastern region. Bank is the focal point for this foundation. The purpose is to finance, to ensure financial support for technologically driven small and medium-scale businesses. The third accountability or public agency involved in this law is the management company, which is still yet to be established. This will be the front office for every investor. As soon as things started to move on with the Sila-Sibiri pipeline, the law came online. Every corporation or company will visit the agency to have advice and to have support needed to establish itself in the Far Eastern regions. He will be properly registered, he will be offered proper legal support. All applications will be followed up in due course and in a due form. The law provides for a certain amount of the size of investments to be involved. The accountability or the agency involved will also screen the investors for their appropriate behavior. It will also maintain the registry of investments and push for a conclusion of an investment agreement. It will also be the main provider of public services for the benefit of investors operating in the Russian Far East. Therefore, we will have one single public accountability which will operate in the entire territory and which will cater for the needs and benefits of all investors. There's yet a fourth public agency involved, an agency for population development. It will be responsible for recruiting talent, recruiting people, training, and everything that has to do with professional support. One of the factors of development is deregulation, relief of government overhang in this particular territory. This means, in practical terms, that investors don't have any limitations or restrictions on bringing in human resources. There will be no requirement of usual bureaucratic procedure to import talent, to bring on board their own professionals. This especially concerns a project that will deal with medicine, education. Foreign diplomas will be legalized in that territory without bureaucratic conditions. The law also provides for tax preferences. The general preference is 5 years. If you are a Chinese or Japanese investor, you will be benefiting from a tax break for the period of 5 years. That we are speaking about income tax. Land tax is also exempt from your accounts for a period of 5 years, or as stipulated in an investment agreement. Speaking about taxation, insurance payments also will be eased into an easy regulation. Usually it will be to the order of 6% to the federal budget and 0.6% of the special federal fund for the development of the territory. I think this is a very beneficial and efficient taxation regime. A number of Chinese partners speaking out on many fora have said that they do not have guarantees. Now they have a guarantee of security for their investment. The guarantee represented by the Vice Minister of the Territorial Development of the Far East. Now we have a full-scale legal regime for the territory, we have full accountability of ministries involved, and we have a responsible person. According to the law, the inspection regime will also be eased and simplified. Inspections for small-scale and medium-scale businesses will last not more than 14 hours. Next idea is duty-free zone, free trade zone along the border, which is a very promising idea. Now, should you have any particular interest or questions, we could discuss that in private after the session. I will go out of my way to explain the essence of this law to anyone who is interested. As of today, we have 9 territories of accelerated development. The largest is Komsomolsk, Tabarovsk, and Nadezhdinsky. Every territory has their own identity, and every decision for an investment will be hinged on a particular choice of a territory of accelerated development. Now, should this whole enterprise prove to be efficient, the idea of territorial development will be followed up with new innovations. Maybe territories of accelerated development will be extended to the entire federal territory. The law has been in effect only for 2 months. As we speak, the law is being used to promote investment, mainly by Japanese investors. Japanese investors have plans to build a big plant in Khabarovsk to process agricultural products, to be followed by a project to upgrade a local airport, and another project to build a plant for aviation parts. Together with the Chinese partners, we're talking about building a plant to produce chemical products. The application has been submitted, it has been processed and approved. So this is the idea of the law, to support medium-scale investments, medium-scale business activity. Today, China occupies a second line in terms of investments in the Far East. Now there are so many other projects in the pipeline, the Sila-Sibiri, the Altai pipeline, but as we speak, China holds only the second place in the rating of investments. Of course, it is too early to say anything in detail about the workings of the law. Our Deputy Minister, Mr. Kalushko, will be meeting with the Chinese delegation to discuss further expansion of activities. I've been watching him talking with the Japanese investors. They are discussing every detail of a possible investment agreement. Therefore, should you have any interest or questions, please feel free to approach me, and I will readdress you or refer you to a competent official. Today, we're witnessing the creation of a completely new legal architecture. In 1 year's time along the way, we will probably have some material at hand to draw conclusions and lessons learned. We have had just one application from the Chinese partners approved as of today. As far as the Japanese investors are concerned, we have memoranda of understanding virtually with every major Japanese producer. All of them have plans to establish themselves in these territories. To wind up my presentation, let me tell you this. In order to have a vision of our cooperation as we move into the future, I have used this opportunity to invite you to the forthcoming Far Eastern Forum, which is planned to take place on September 3-5 this year. This will be a major conference event. We're expecting all major economic actors from Korea, Singapore, Malaysia, from throughout the region, from Russia, of course. The mission of this forum to get acquainted with the new legal architecture for investment in the Far Eastern Russia. The format of the forum will be innovative. It will be pretty much different from the standard and classical forum. We will be offering advice, consultative services. We will be offering person-to-person contacts. We will offer everyone attending a possibility to make their point. The final idea is that every investor must come home with a project.
Thank you very much, Artem. I would only agree that every big major project depends on the people working in the field, on the ground. And I can see a growing enthusiasm among those working in the Far East. People are eager, people are enthusiastic, and this drive is contagious. I mean, investors also become enthusiastic. When we say investment climate is based on how adequate and hardworking people you have on the other side. And the state here plays a systemic role, and private partners and private investors ask what are the guarantees, which is a rightful question. And financial guarantees on paper are not enough. I mean, if not guarantee, you need to believe in people sitting on the other side of the table, and the state bodies, state agencies need to. We need this support from them. We're talking about long-term projects, and this trust is a very important factor for private investors. I think it would be a proper time to give floor to those who wish to ask their questions. We're ready to take questions or comments. In case you want to share your opinion or experience, you can have the mic. I would kindly ask you to introduce yourselves and say to whom you address your question. I have a question. I hope it won't be long. My name is Barat Davletbaev, Niklasayev and Partners, and we have practice in China. I have a question to our guests from China, to Mr. Van and Ms. Teng. As for this economic belt Silk Road project, this project now does not have a strict or well-defined framework. There are a number of at least six projects within this network of railroads and roads, routes. Only two routes go across Russia. The rest are located in Asia. As for the Russian routes, how competitive are they? What competitive advantages do they have? And what will be the major factor when choosing this or that route for investment, whether it will be Russian routes or Asian routes? Thank you for the question. I think you have, you said, it's one belt, one road, one route. And this new program that was launched previous year or early this year, when the leaders of our countries called for this initiative. But since this program, in my own opinion, is still rather theoretical, we need to bring it into life. We need time to make it real. Since we're talking about an economic belt, Silk Road belt, major part of this route covers Central Asia and Russia. But we see a typical project. If we're talking about this new economic belt, we see this Moscow-Kazan high-speed rail as part of this route. And later we developed the Moscow-Beijing route. There are a lot of talks, but we feel and this is my private opinion, it's not the leader's opinion. I know that when the leaders talk about it, and they're very optimistic about this project, but still, all these projects need to be done step by step. And I see there are a lot of objectives, a lot of tasks, a lot of work to be done. But I think we should hope for for a real work to be done. So I tried to answer this question.
The one road and one build. The new national strategy mentioned by the Chinese leaders to another country's leaders. Eventually, I personally involved with some project going on among the countries. They called New Silk Road Project. Eventually, the New Silk Road Project is going on more than 10 years. That is talking about the land bridge, railway land bridge from China, from the port city of the Lianyungang to the Amsterdam. So that means there are two railway roads from China. One from Beijing through the Siberia road and go to the Moscow, maybe go further. Another one is from the port of Lianyungang, go through the Kazakhstan and go through the Russia, and finally go to Amsterdam. Eventually, these countries along the lines have talked about more than 10 years. And I sometimes involved such kind of talking. The talking is related to how to make the transportation go through smoothly. Because that relates to more than 10 countries. So that's eventually called New Silk Road Project. So the new Silk Road Project eventually not start from last year. Eventually they already started more than 10 years. However, as a new Chinese leader, they eventually upgrade this project, and also they to link to also not only from land, also from sea, because in the tradition there is some transportation not only from land but also from sea. So that's give a new ideas for such kind of project. Of course, also, as the Chinese government put a lot of effort or a lot of financial effort to such a project, I think, from today's. So eventually, in such a project, Russia is still an important country, and will be, to take a more important role during such a project. So I think maybe many corporations, even start from banks, from the transportation companies, from the manufacturers, or even for the manufacture of the goods. So it's a lot of companies could be involved in such kind of project.
Спасибо большое. Я думаю, время...
Thank you very much. I guess we have time for another question or a comment. If not, I would ask our speakers, maybe you would like to add something or to comment or address the audience. And I would gladly go to Vladivostok in early September to the forum. I've been there in Vladivostok, and early September is an ideal season. Now St. Petersburg has the ideal time for the travel, for business travel. If you would love to visit Vladivostok, you should do it in early September. And food-wise as well, if you're a foodie. Moderator is expected to draw some conclusions. In my case, I would probably refrain from that, and I would rather leave an open ending. Although Mr. Van mentioned that our cooperation has been going on for centuries, but we should understand that we are now entering a new stage of our cooperation becoming more active. And if we work efficiently now, if we really have this drive, if we feel this enthusiasm now, it will make our future cooperation more successful. You have heard projects mentioned today that last for many years. And Alexander Dolgov said that it's not only political based projects. We're talking about long-term projects. Financial assets are accumulated, and well-being is accumulated, including intellectual well-being. And Mr. Van talked about intellectual property protection. It is all these trends are very timely, and we need to fine-tune this cooperation between us. We don't need a third party in this sense. I think we are developed enough. We are well-established states and economies, which enables us to have a mutually equal dialogue, and we have a wish to continue this dialogue. To have this work done, we have all the motivation in the legal sphere, and we can make this work successful if we approach it from this standpoint. We need to work, we need to meet, exchange opinions and contacts, and I hope that in Vladivostok we'll be talking about projects that have already been realized and are developed now. I wish you a nice day, and we're having a better weather today with sun in St. Petersburg, and we have a chance to get a drop of this beautiful sunlight. Thank you very much, and I wish you successful work. Thank you for moderating this session. Thank you.